Hey everybody, today we are taking a look at Nightfall Dark Rages, an expansion to Nightfall and the 5th release in the line of Nightfall games. This is not a standalone game, so you would need one of the full sets to play this, and at this point there had been 3. There had been Nightfall, there had been Nightfall Martial Law, and then later on we got the Coldest War, a really great set. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. And speaking of that, if you don't know how to play Nightfall, then let me point you to a video here where I'll teach you, I'll basically give you an overview of how the game works, because I will not be going into that in this video. So, Dark Rages, a set that really brought the types of cards into the limelight. You know, vampires and lycanthropes and the ghouls and such. Let me show you some of the cards, some of what the game introduced, and then I'll tell you what I think of it. Dark Rages introduces 24 more cards to Nightfall, and while some of these, and I'm about to show you some here, are very interesting, I honestly think at this point is where I started to find cards sort of starting to repeat themselves, if you would, sort of cannibalize older cards. So I'm going to show you a couple of neat ones here, but then the bottom two here are cards that I think are just a little repetitive based on older powers and such. So in this case, what should not be, this one basically is going to let you attach this card to 2 minions that you already have, and they become 1 minion, combining all card text, health, strength. Pretty neat concept, very strange card. Exposed on the chain inflicts 2 damage on each player that does not have a minion in play. That's an ouchy card if you're not careful. Body armor. So we're still attaching cards here. Attach this to target minion. While it's in play, each time the minion blocks another minion, it negates the first 2 damage that will be inflicted on it. Pretty cool stuff. Obviously you want to attach this to something that's going to stick around, hopefully. Over here we have Infernal Resuscitation. Attach to target minion in play. When this minion would be destroyed, destroy this card instead. Restore that other minion to full health. So they get another go around. Nice. Now here's a couple that I thought were just more of the same, really. So, chain, target player destroys 1 minion he controls. Okay, fine. Instead of me destroying one for a slightly higher cost, they destroy one. By the way, that card existed, I think, in the first set. So, fine, but again, a little repetitive. This one you discard during combat. Up to 2 of your minions gain 1 additional health. And if you put it in your chain, you gain 2 influence. Alright, that's not bad. I like that. But again, in this set, I started to feel like these things have been seen already. There's also one more thing that the set introduced that I'm not a really big fan of, and that is these cards here, which are called the avatars. And so at the beginning of the game, you may take one of these, and you basically have a representation of yourself, if you would, in the game. And each one is set up in a very specific way, in which it gives you basically beneficial powers to 2 types of minions and a negative power towards 2 others, pretty much. So let's take a look at one of these here. This one says when you defend with a lycanthrope or hunter, you negate the first point of combat damage. And the negative is that when you place a ghoul or vampire into play, you inflict 2 damage on target friendly minion. Okay, fine. There's 3 of these with different combinations. We have Vampire Overlord here, which is vampires and lycanthropes you claim cost 1 less influence to a minimum of 1. But the bad stuff is when you attack with a ghoul or hunter, you lose 2 influence this turn to a minimum of 1. And again, these cards have slightly different effects and different combinations. So like it'll be vampire lycanthropes there, and this one is vampires and hunters is good. Vampires and ghouls is good. The last 2 different kinds here are these voodoo characters, which is, well, in this case, when you claim a ghoul vampire, you place it into play with 1 health. It goes right into play is the idea. And each time a hunter or lycanthrope is claimed, You inflict 2 damage on a target-friendly minion. Fine, we've seen that. Some more of those. The Militia Leader. When you resolve an action on your turn, you gain 2 influence. Minions you claim cost 1 additional influence. Fine. So that's the idea. It's basically cards that give you powers for the whole game that no one else has. It's okay, but I find it to be basically, oh, here's some more stuff I need to keep track of. And so I typically do not include these in play. It's not something that I feel is worthwhile explaining, but really mostly keeping track of. So that's it. This set is an interesting one. I think I like it, well, let me say this. I think I like the cards, the minions and actions, a little bit better than the ones from Blood Country, the third release, so the second expansion, if you would. But those Avatar cards, I get that they help the theme of this release, and they're interesting, but I almost never play with them. I find them a little too much, I guess. I like the idea of representing someone in the game. I think that's a cool idea. I'm not sure that this implementation of that idea was what I would have envisioned, right? So that's okay because you get all those other cards, but for me, the avatars don't really knock it out of the park. It's just one more thing to keep track of, and so whatever, right? They push you towards vampires or ghouls or this, and they make you avoid the other ones, and so all that's ultimately doing is taking a pool of cards, which is 10 piles of cards, and offering you maybe like 6 that you should buy. So, not my favorite thing. Besides that, the cards I think are neat. They continue things that have been introduced in previous things. We have combat abilities, which have been introduced previously. We have chain abilities, of course, and we have lots of cool stuff. The cards I like. I think it's neat, and I do like the theme in this. It's a little darker. It's a little more serious, maybe, than Blood Country for one. Even than the Coldest War, really. So the tone I like quite a bit. Those avatars not so much. So this one, again, it's somewhere in the middle for me, trending towards the top of releases, and I'm going to categorize them all. But an interesting one. Certainly not one of the first ones I would get, but a worthwhile expansion, especially if to you that Avatar idea sounds cool and you like the look of the cards. So that is Nightfall Dark Rages.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.